This message is for you young black brothers and sisters, ages 18 to 30. I say 30 because at that age, you're still trying to figure it out. Now, if you're not black, you're welcome to hear what I have to say because it's very important that we all try to have an understanding on how ancestors were treated in this country called America. Don't be upset. Hear me out. And then you can post in the comment section on your take. But for my young black sister and brother, know your history. Know what happened in past times. Stick with me because it gets good. Education is important, but black education is very important. I can remember asking my mother where she was when Dr. Martin Luther King was assassinated. She told me that she was in school and she cried. She heard it on the intercom that Dr. Martin Luther King was assassinated and he died in Memphis, Tennessee. And all she could do was cry. Born in 1953, she resided in Arkansas and went to a segregated school. No white kids in the school, none whatsoever. Busing to the school with all black kids. She cried because Dr. King was fighting for equality no matter what color you were. Seems like the upcoming administration would love for us to go back to that. If you're listening to this and you're not black, don't be offended. Don't get upset, but realize that my brothers, my young brothers especially, and my young sisters especially, parents can't afford to send their children to a private school or a charter school that is 15 miles away. Some parents don't have that kind of luxury. Some parents just can't have their kids go to a private school on a school voucher that they still had to pay for uniforms, books, daily food, lunch at the school. They can't afford that, so they rely on the public schooling system. Okay, I'm getting off track there. I'm getting off track. But my young black brother and sister, we need to know our education. We need to know our history, the history of Nat Turner and how he rebelled back in the 1800s and was hung at the age of 31. W.E.B. Du Bois, or Dubois, Marcus Garvey, Booker T. Washington, Harriet Tubman, Sojourner Truth, and so on. We need to know the history of Stokely Carmichael, Malcolm X, Rosa Parks, and of course, Dr. Martin Luther King. We need to know about the Middle Passage and how our ancestors were taken from Africa, Africa that was rich with diamonds and many other resources that were rich for other people to take. We need to know about how we were sold for free labor, separated from our families, beat, whipped, raped, castrated, made to look inferior. You see, education, especially black education, needs to be known. World War II, how black man had to fight with white man to stop the tyranny of a fascist Nazi dictator in Adolf Hitler. Read up on the Tuskegee Airmen who flew gracefully and took down German pilots. We can even go back to the Civil War where black men fought for their rights to be a free man in the land they were shipped to. Listen, my Indian brothers and sisters, I'm not forgetting about your history, as I do have Cherokee in my blood, but I'm not forgetting about your history and how the land that was rightfully yours was taken. But this is about Black history right now, so I'm going to keep going. Oh man, in slavery time, we were built differently, strong, muscular, and dark. We could stand the heat while the slave owner used us freely to pick the cotton, the vegetables, milk the cow, pick the corn, the wheat. Free labor. That's what we were used for. The mothers raising the slave owners' kids, milking them from their own bosom, and then trying to raise her own children. The fathers castrated, whipped, and unalived in front of the mother and their children. Just imagine. Just imagine having experienced something like that. I'm not trying to make you angry. This is our history. I'm not trying to make you upset if you are not a Black person, if you're not from African descent. I'm not trying to make you upset. This is just the history that is important for us to know. No wonder why the slave was better off trying to escape and to be free in a free land, knowing and risking that they could lose their life, knowing that they can be flogged and whipped, starved. We have to know our history, my young man, my young woman. And we have to research and look at other people's history because we're not alone. Yet, we've been the ones that have been vilified in this country. I know our other brothers and sisters who are migrants are starting to be vilified now. See, back in the day, back in the slavery time frame, we weren't taught to read or write or learn because they wanted to keep us stupid. The man in power wanted to keep us stupid. The slave owner in power didn't want us to learn anything because if we learned and we were able to write and read, that means that we could have thought to overtake what was happening to us. They say knowledge is power and can't be taken away. That's why it's important for us to continue learning, educating ourselves, knowing politics, knowing the things that are being set in place that is not for us, knowing that this upcoming administration could care less in regards to what we have in our pockets. We have to continue to learn because we are in a crooked system and the system is not made for the poor. We have to understand the history of Black men and women because what we're seeing now is something that is trying to take us back to that time where Blacks were inferior, dumb, and could not be in a position of power. That's why they're trying to take away CRT. They're trying to take away Pan African studies in these universities and these colleges. That's why they're trying to do away with the Department of Education because they know that they can hurt many minorities by doing this to fatten their pockets and in privatizing education. My young brother, my young sister, if you are of the age of 18, start researching. Know the political system. Know how to stay ahead of the game. Understand policies that are put in place to affect your child, to affect your younger brother or sister. Understand it. Look around. Pay attention to your surroundings. Educate yourself. It is very important. And I tell you what, the more you know, the more you can start to realize when somebody's trying to play you. Love your neighbor. Listen to your neighbor. But realize when your neighbor's not for you, but for themselves. This is the Just Listen podcast. I appreciate you hanging tight with me if you're still here. Do me a favor and like and subscribe. Post in the comments section what you think. I'd love to hear it, and I will reply back. But we got to continue this fight for equality for everyone, no matter what color they are. We live in a time where the rich get richer and the poor continues to stay poor and worse off. Walt out.